Hello, moon to moon. I have a pretty extraordinary episode today. Um, I'm doing it mostly no notes. It's just so alive in me. I'd rather it come through, from deep within me and trust in the outcomes. Um, the title of this episode is The Matriarchy is Already Here. So, in the course of our time together, I want to talk about what I mean by that, share where this came from just my life and from the astrology. Going to talk to you about how it's been continuing to live with me since I first uttered these words into the field. And I would like to then also share with you a pretty massive personal story that is like brand new. It's from this past weekend that to me really holds the potency of what I'm talking about when I say the matriarchy is already here. Like, how does it actually show up in ways that blow your mind? I'm in a huge cycle. This Aries new moon, like my new moon spread is just full of majors and court cards. Like, okay. um, can't wait to see how this goes. And it's really very much like bouncing off from what was coming through at the very end of the last cycle, when I first uttered the matriarchy is already here on Thursday, the day before the new moon in Aries. It was the dark moon and the moon was in Aries. And as I go, I'm also going to be weaving this in with my work because what part of what this framework is for me is actually a house for my work because it allowed me to understand and articulate like what are we doing. Let me tell you what we're doing is the matriarchy is already here, and that's like extremely clarifying. It's been extremely clarifying for me to see that every project that I have, every class that I'm teaching, everything you see me ever doing is part of this project. It's the matriarchy is already here project that I'm inviting you into with me. So, shall we dive in? Anybody ready to go? Okay. Um, the matriarchy is already here. So let's talk about some context. Context. I almost never use this word matriarchy. Like if you follow my voice, if you study with me, you've not heard me use this word. Like I haven't tended to bring that word into my work because it's not that I don't appreciate it as an alternative to patriarchy, but I haven't really been able to sit inside of it fully and like actually see how it would work. Like I'm not someone who's interested in counter frameworks to the framework that you're against because I don't find resistance to be that compelling of a way of being when you want change. I'm a third way person of like busting open another way with your imagination, with your curious questions, with your trickster attitudes and stances and ways of being, and finding like another way that like, whoa, I hadn't even thought about that idea. Oh, that's way more interesting. Because then it's not as defined by the thing you don't like, you know? So I haven't really been able to understand how to be with matriarchy in a way that like feels disruptive and imaginal and like actually could happen in a way that I can see it. I can like see the thing. There it is. I understand where we're going. I can see the point on the horizon that we're moving to. Like I haven't been able to sense that. So thus I don't use the word. Like I don't invoke language that I don't actually feel in my body. I can like sit down inside and like have some coffee, like really live with it. So I say this to underline kind of the shock of this coming out of my mouth. So I'm in Living Emergence, my community home world. We do monthly conversations, one per sign, where everyone comes and it's very emergent. I invite people in my community to bring what's alive for them and to be responsive to one another and take turns unmuting. And I really just step back. If I do speak, I'm coming in as a participant. And these are super fun conversations because each one tends to take on the energy of the sign that the sun is in. So this was the Aries meetup, which was very, very different than any of the meetups we've had yet. And the first person who spoke brought up inner child healing and like the power of the inner, like being a person in inner child healing, which is, of course, central to my work. To me, un- inner child healing, parts work, and unshaming are basically all the same thing. It has to do with feeling into how the past is always present and we can never go back. We talk to and connect to and relate with all of these different parts of ourselves from past moments in time, some which we can't even like locate where they come from. It's very mysterious and very lunar. I've been teaching on my ways of relating to inner child healing and parts work and unshaming now since the beginning of my career when I first had a month-long class called Soft Strength on the Moon. People who bought that class in 2019 are still in Living Emergence and taking classes with me or even collaborating with me to this day. And my lunar teachings have morphed over the years, and then unshaming became a way of doing this in a much more refined way because I was able to be clearly talking about shame, which is an activation point, which really takes us into the past. Shame is always a return. It's always a return to the past. It is not emergent because emergence is opening up to and being available to be present with what is here and now and to take on a stance of approachability and availability to be able to listen, to be able to attune, and to be with what is here so that then you can respond to it. And that response that's coming from present time rather than the return of the past is like the emergent next move. And it's you moving into the world from this is who I am now. I'm not doing a move that's a repeat of the past. This, I'm going to tie this to my workshop. This workshop, have you tried making it weirder? That's going to be on Friday, the first 4 Fridays of May. It's technically a branding workshop, but what is it that we're doing? It's about clarity on who are you? Like, who are you now? What is your business now? Emergently available to listen so that your ways of showing up and participating in the marketplace, in the world, are coming from present time. This is who I am now. Let me introduce you. Okay. This idea that I just said here is going to hook us to the anecdote I tell later. So, emergence. Yeah. Emergence, inner child healing. And so there's the inner child healing is like brought into the space. This had been really alive for me lately. Like, I don't know if you saw Justin Bieber's Coachella performance. I don't know if I said either of those names correctly, but he like sang with his inner child from YouTube clips of his child self singing. Very like of the moment what I'm talking about. That was super. The matriarchy is already here. Okay, that little moment there. So that was brought into the space. And then we start talking about self trust, which to me has always been an Aries thing. It's like, do you trust yourself? We are circling back to sign number one. This is like emergence, Pisces to Aries, bringing forward this new thing. Do you trust yourself? Do you trust yourself to be with whatever happens along the path of you participating now from the truth of who you are now? The truth of who you are now. Do you trust yourself that you can stay with yourself through all the moves that come after this? Which means trusting yourself that you're going to be a person who's learning. You're going to be a person who adapts as you go. You're going to be a person who listens and notices like how the world responds to you and continue to show up and like all of that responsibility, responsiveness. And that, the self trust piece is so important because it's through Aries that we really like birth it. We birth it. And then we move along the way from that point of that audacity, the precociousness to like enter the world, the precociousness to enter the world. So I'm listening, the conversations, like bringing up all of these themes of like wanting to put things into the world and just like go for it and like follow the impulse of life that's coming through you and like be the one that's with you as you do it. And then we ended with more words on inner child healing. And so I unmuted because there was like 1 minute left on the timer. So I was like, I'm going to say some concluding words to kind of tie this together before we depart today. And I shared, what I'm seeing here is that the matriarchy is already here. I said, the matriarchy is all of us in the business of learning to care for ourselves, to be with ourselves in every moment. The, the matriarchy is not going to rise up like a central body. It's not going to then come be a top down intelligence telling us how to run things. It's going to be from the bottom up, which is all of us internally being through the reprogramming, through this healing, through the unshaming, having a natural then understanding that what most matters is protecting children. What most matters is protecting life. What most matters is protecting the future. That this is what wisdom is. It grows from caring for and protecting children, the future. And of course, that then means protecting planet Earth. And that because it's not going to be top down, what's going to happen is like a wave. It's just human to human, all of us in all these different communities all over the world with so many teachers. There's so many people out there teaching inner child healing, parts work, spiritual emotional reparenting, unshaming, somatic healing, energy healing. Like we're learning how to be with all of these parts of us that get triggered and talk to them and speak with them and transmute the uncomfortable feelings into something that feels like compassion and love. And so that over time, from doing that again and again, Saturn helping us, Saturn holding us through the medium of time, we start to realize that we are people who trust ourselves, coming back to Aries, that through these cycles, that's what we have, year to year, moon to moon, we continue to return to this trusting ourselves that we are here. We're not running away. We will not abandon ourselves. We will not abandon this child, the child that is within us, the child that is beyond us, the child that is our earth, the matriarchy as the collective child that we are always already raising together. And so this sense of like what the matriarchy is first of all, through this act of not abandoning yourself. This happens because you give up all hope of ever being healed and done with caring for yourself. This doesn't work if we believe we're going to get to a place where we can stop healing, where we can stop loving ourselves, where we can stop attuning to what's going on inside of us. There's a massive surrender that has to happen for unshaming to continue. The surrender is surrendering any idea that we're going to abandon ourselves. And as we do that, we teach ourselves the most important lesson. I am not trying to get out of loving you, we're saying to the inner child, to our younger selves. And then collectively, by fractal, it says, I will never give up on caring for these children. I will never quit on caring for this planet. I will never look away from my job as a steward of this future, the future beyond me. And it's difficult to care for the future beyond you when you're feeling so much shame, when you're feeling so unattuned to, when you're rollicking just empty from not having received proper attunement, so you don't know how to give it to yourself, looking for it in all the wrong places, quote unquote. This cycle that we get into with shame that I have most definitely known. The surrender that will, this business of loving ourselves and taking care of ourselves will ever end is the beginning of your system understanding that you're going to stay. You're going to stay and be here. You're going to stay here with this job of being with yourself while you're on planet Earth. And once you start to really know that that's true, well, now you're really starting to trust yourself, because you're starting to trust that no matter what happens, you will not be abandoned. You cannot be abandoned because you will stay with yourself. No matter what happens, no matter what the outcomes are, what you did failed or succeeded, you were disappointed, it was better than you wanted. All outcomes come to the same thing, that I'm with myself. And from that level of self-trust, that miraculous things start to happen in a fractal way. Because from this self-trust, we begin to trust ourselves to create our lives, to create our devotions, to create our patterns and habits according to our own devotions. What holds us? We create order from the chaos, from quitting those systems that do not love us. We quit trusting in what does not love us, which doesn't want us to trust ourselves. Systems that do not want us to have our own devotional fields. And we begin to have our own cycles moon to moon. We're doing our own cycles now in our own devotional ways. And this is very important because obedience is what the patriarchy counts on. Lack of self-trust, teaching us to self-abdicate, to self-abandon, to abandon your intuition and sacrifice your child. Like it goes back to Abraham, it goes back to like deep roots of learning to give away your own self-authority to a larger authority. But the more you trust in yourself, which comes from moon to moon, cycle to cycle, staying with yourself until you really believe it, you're not going to be obeying that shit anymore. And over time, held by your own ways, you become someone who enters this world as a participant who is going to be looked at and seen as a disruptor because it is disruptive to come from your own self-trust and your own devotions. And this disruption is the matriarchy is already here out in the world. Not gonna obey, I'm not obeying. I got my own thing. I trust myself. I have my own devotions. The moon is my devotion, the cycles. And we come together and we come into spaces with one another and you watch someone living this. You watch them repatterning. You're doing it yourself. You're seeing each other. You're witnessing each other. You're celebrating each other. This is what happens in my community spaces. So I see how real it is. You see that and you say to yourself, the matriarchy is already here. It's in these rooms. It's in these humans. They're walking it. They're walking it. It's already here. We don't have to wait for some kind of moment where we're saved by an external body that's going to make it true. It's just all falling down, the old patriarchy, because it will not be able to keep hold with all these disruptors who refuse. One by one is how it will go. Human by human. It won't have a single leader. It won't have single heroes. It is all of us, generation to generation, saying, yes, I will commit to this. I will commit to this. Let's do the alchemy. That alchemy is what emergence looks like. It's allowing the past pattern to be witnessed, but not turned to as the pattern that is going to be how you take your next move. It is being with the moment and making a new choice and trusting yourself over time that that's just who you are. And there is no scenario where you're going to break your loyalty to yourself. But, it took me years to get into that self-trust of being in this every single day. Good thing it's fun. Good thing it's magical. And good thing there's company to enjoy the reprogramming with. So, what we're doing with unshaming is we are addressing and confronting the internalized police, the internalized oppressor, the internalized colonizer, the internalized inner critic, the internalized bully, the internalized fucking asshole who got in our heads and told us the limitations of what we can be, who let us believe in their projections onto us, that those projections are real and true, and they're the limits of what's possible. So when I say that, have you tried making it weirder? What has to do with hypnotizing yourself before you can hypnotize others. A lot of what that is expelling ideas about who you are and what's possible for you, what makes you valuable or not valuable, what makes you worthy and not worthy, getting more refined and clear into a power version of yourself, which is the real version of yourself. Because weird is you. Have you tried making it weirder? As in, have you tried making it more like you? We pull away from our power when we're trying to be somebody else. But it can be so hard to see that when those internalized voices are loud. It's also hard to believe anyone will believe it, right? Like it's one for me, it's harder for me to believe that other people could see me in my power than it is for me to see myself in my power in many ways. If you just learn over time not to trust in people, like you just learn you can't trust in humans. That would be fair to come to that conclusion in many ways. But part of this alchemy is surrendering those stories, because that's part of how you come into living the matriarchy is already here in your body. So now I want to tell you this wild story that really now for me exemplifies the matriarchy is already here that I'm living in a like clear anecdote. So this past weekend I had my high school reunion, my 30th, because I'm 48 and I was class of 96. And I haven't seen a lot of people from my school and my brother's school because I went to an all girls school. I haven't seen a lot of those people since high school or like college era when we'd come back to town. And then there are all the other people I hadn't seen since I've gotten divorced. I haven't seen since I've been an astrologer in my mystical entrepreneurial life. Like last they saw me, I was still working towards a degree in art history. And I had a very different energy back then because I was in the energy of my marriage and in the energy of the limited view I had of myself and what was possible for me in this world. So, I didn't really think about it as it was approaching. Like I knew I'd committed to going, and my very dear friend who doesn't live here was coming to town, and I knew she was coming, and I was really excited about that because she's never met Matt. I haven't seen her since 2018 when I was like really pretty new post divorce. And those are the things I even forgot to buy a ticket to the thing that was on Friday at the school because I was like, I was busy with my work. So I didn't like buy clothes. I was just, oh shoot, I guess I'm just gonna wear what I always wear because I always am like ready to go, in my new way of being, in the way of being I have now. I always dress in the way that most pleases me. I always wake up every day prepared to be pleased by it. Honestly, like the only way to be satisfied is if you agree to be satisfied. Like I agree to be satisfied every day by how I'm showing up. And I trust myself to fully show up to every single day like it is a very important magical day. And I live like this. So it was just like a matter of showing up on any other day for me. It's just that I was about to see a bunch of people that I hadn't seen in a long time. Many of whom may not even, do they know that I'm doing now? I don't know. Like, have they been, have they been checking me out? Like, have you heard about what Britain's up doing? I don't know. What if it's going to be awesome? What if it's going to be amazing? Um, but before I tell you how it went, I want to give you some backdrop here. So I had left the school that I was going to go to a boarding school. I wanted to go to boarding school. I went to New Hampshire and I went to school called Phillips Exeter. It's like a very old school. Um, it's an old school because it is. It was founded like before the Revolutionary War. It's like classic New England. And I just was like ready for this being in a place with history, being part of this like romantic world of loving learning. And yeah, I was just a big nerd. And I also hung out with a fast crowd at the same time. Like I was a pretty fast mover socially, trying things out. Um, I was like both very rule following and rule busting at the same time as part of my paradoxes. And I just got really kind of disillusioned with the partying freshman year here in Dallas and wanted to go somewhere that I imagined like everyone's just studying all the time, which is both true and not true. And I loved it. But then my dad died the summer after that year. So I had intended to go back, but I decided I needed to stay home and help my mom with my brothers. And I was accepted back at the school here. And so when I finished high school, junior and senior year, I was kind of a ghost of myself because I was that person who's experiencing things that the people around them aren't or are not experiencing. Like most people were not experiencing the death of a parent. There were a few other people, but it was a really horrible time. And I just remember like I would see my classmates almost through like kind of a gauze, just like everybody's like up and into school and like into being a teenager, and everything felt sort of meaningless. And I just wanted to get through and go to a good school and just like get it done. And it was just a very like my spirit was extremely low, you know, because I didn't, you know, to have that on my radar that my dad could just not come home one day. You know, most people don't. With sudden deaths, it's just so hard to believe, and it's very rapidly maturing. And so a lot of people at my reunion, they last time they saw me, I was like in that kind of place. I'm just like not really with everyone because like what's there to get excited about? And then moreover, when I was in high school, I had the same boyfriend all 4 years. And we were inseparable. We were married. We stayed together when I was um, at boarding school. We were probably going to break up, but he was sitting next to me when I found out that my dad died. And so we stayed together. So I was, you know, he was inside the view of what we were like before and what we were like after. And this boyfriend was someone that was like, when we first got together, everyone was like, you know that he can't be monogamous, don't you? Or like, you know that he's no good, don't you? Because he just had this reputation as being like a ladies' man. And he had like, he was like one of those very charismatic people where when you're in his gaze, it feels amazing. He was a big player, you know, was funny, strong, dominant energy in a room. And also could like level people. So you kind of wanted to stay on his good side. And, he cheated on me multiple times before my dad died. But then the day after graduation, I found out that he'd been cheating on me all of senior year with someone in my social group in the grade below. And he had been taking her to parties. Everybody knew, like, he and I were together, and he was parading around these parties with her. And no one's telling me. And, like he would be like, I need to take you home. I'm tired. And it was like, what? Because I had always slept at his house. And it was like, why? So, and if I started to question him, he would make this huge fuss that I was being paranoid, that I had trust issues, and like, how you say you love me, but then you don't trust me. And so I like really took that seriously and was like, I better self study. Like, do I really not trust him? I was like learning to not listen to my intuition that was like, this is kind of weird though. Or like, where did you go? What are you doing? Because I started to be afraid to let him know I was like having trouble believing him because he would be so mean when I would protest or I would even ask a question. It just like really sucked because I was going through grief. And then he just started to become more and more um like misattuned to me, just like focusing on partying and his friends and being with the guys. And like, I felt really annoying. And I started to interpret this as I'm just not pretty. Maybe if I was prettier, if I was thinner, I could get back into his gaze again and he would like be attracted to me again. So here I am not eating, wasting away for him. And I find out the day after graduation that indeed, all along, the motherfucker was publicly humiliating me. So this just basically like shattered me. Like when I went to college, it was like, can someone get me to like the hard grain alcohol immediately, please? Because I heard that will help me not feel. I just was like, how can I not feel anything? And I really was in a journey for most of college of um, just navigating my relationship to being alive, given what planet Earth was turning out to be like. My spirit persisted because I love learning and I was at a great school and I couldn't help myself. If I'm in this Shakespeare seminar, I can't help myself. I'm going to read it and I'm going to get into it. Like, thank goodness our spirit carries on even when we're in these horrific conditions. And the more I drank, the more I got in trouble, the more shame I had. And then the more shame I had, the more I got in trouble. And the more I self abandoned, self abandoned, self abandoned until my self trust was in shreds. My self esteem and self worth was in shreds. Within the first like 6 months of college, it already was. I went from being like the premier type, like perfect girl, to like, let's see how robustly I can fight that category because I don't want to be her anymore. And then find out how people treat you when you're the other way. I got to learn all about that. Don't have any regrets. I love all these parts of me. They were deeply engaging with what is this reality and who am I under different stereotypes and titles and ways of being. What's it like to not be boundaried? Let's see what that's like. Just like trying it all fucking out. but the damage was deep. And, when I got married, I found a man that was like kind and could see me. And that really lifted me up. And I couldn't wait to have kids. And I just slowly, slowly began to lift myself back up again. Children was such a big deal for me. They were so weird and wild and raw. And I just threw myself into reflecting their power back to them, basically, and like being a kind of amplifier to their spirits so that they could get, as big as they might ever want to go, and just creating a reality for them that was just highly creative and expressive and real. And then I found my deeper studies in academia, and I just became a person I could trust in for these things that I cared about, even though I was still navigating like deep, deep, deep trauma from those years. Trust me, I'm taking us back to the matriarchy is already here. So, what I loved about academia too is I began to study disruptive theorists, disruptive historians who insisted on telling other stories, different voices, queer voices, indigenous voices, post colonial voices, feminist voices, just really helping me see other ways of looking at the world and the ideological underpinnings of reality, and like belong to a lineage of disruptors, because my dad was gone and my mom, like, she had been too indoctrinated to access rage um, or language. She wanted me to stay safe inside white supremacy and patriarchy. And so she had educated me to fawn my way through it in order to be safe. And I just was not wanting to do that. Um, that did not seem like self-loving or intelligent. Definitely not in accordance with these theorists that I was learning from. So it was some 20 years after graduating, around 10 years ago almost, that I began to really start to feel stronger in myself. I was coming into some midlife transits, and y'all mostly all know, I imagine, the story of me finding intuitive healing and the moon starting to talk to me asking for a divorce, learning how to work with the lunar cycle, finding my brother giving me my chart, and like going down this huge rabbit hole into a new way of being, and then eventually giving up my academic pursuits to become an astrologer. And I stayed as an adjunct teacher for several years to pay my bread and butter bills. And then eventually my business becoming so successful that it was obvious that there was no reason to stay in academia anymore, because I would make more money from the extra time that I had not having to do that job anymore. And that, like, oh, I'm fully making way more money than I was ever going to make in academia. I'm good. I can now go full time on this dream. And everything that my business is about trusting yourself. Trust that voice and follow it, being part of like my repeated language that I've been using and invoking for years to speak to the power of the inner voice to guide you in your way to understanding that the matriarchy is already here. So, yeah, all along the way, I've been practicing everything I teach so that I'm a person of deep self-trust and deep, deep, deep devotion to this uh, wild business that I have, and it's lunar cycles and seasonal cycles, staying so connected to my guides and to continuing to learn to trust in my abilities to be in connection to mystery, teaching mystery. And here I had my reunion right after I had spoken. The Matriarchy is already here in Instagram the day after that class that I was telling you about. I made a video. It's my most seen reel that I've ever put out on the Matriarchy is already here. I pinned it at the top if you've never watched it. And then I promptly wrote a newsletter on it. And within 24 hours, I had someone ask me permission to put it on a t-shirt for like a festival that they're sponsoring. So I was like, okay, wow. I could hardly sleep for days, just like the matriarchy is already here. What does it mean? What's next, And just I've just been wanting to listen to how it's teaching me through what comes up in my life. So I had my reunion and just it was amazing. Just fully showing up and like knowing that nobody hears reaction to me, projected or real, could rollick me. Like there's no way that what anybody thinks about me could lead to me re-wondering about myself. Like I'm here to have fun. I'm here to show up. I can't wait to see people. See, what happens with unshaming is it allows you to actually care about other people. Like actually wanting to talk to other people rather than worrying about what they think about you because shame is completely self-focused. And so just like what would it be like? I can't wait to see that gal from English class, like I'm going to go and have great conversations. I can't wait to find out who everybody's become. And that is what happened. Like I could not have had a better time. It was so beautiful feeling my heart open and able to receive the experience deeply. Matt came to a bunch of things, people just like really seeing us and seeing what his energy is for me and his appreciation for me and sensing their like recognition of that. Like I don't need their validation to know it. Like I know it. I know what I'm living. But having it reflected back was really meaningful from people that I had known since I was a child. People who knew my father. These are people who knew my father. These are people who were in church who saw me give a eulogy to my dad, you know? And I took this career not knowing if anyone would ever understand, like I had to just do it and just keep following the emergent pathway one day, one cycle at a time, moon to moon. So the big anecdote is that the final night, Saturday night, there was a late night party hosted by the guys in my brother's school. And it was likely that my ex was going to be there because he lives in town. And I hadn't seen him at anything yet. He didn't go to the thing the guys came to on Friday. It was like a filtering thing. The women were hosting. So it was like, these are the men who come to an event with 48-year-old women. It's a naturally filtering event. Great guys. So Matt needed to go to bed early, needed to get on home, and he had a feeling that he would be a distraction from something that might happen. Because Matt, like, really, really has deep rage when it comes to this ex-boyfriend. And I walk in, I can see that he's there, and like, whatever. I'm going to go over there because people are already like bringing me in, like they can't wait to talk to me. I am having the time of my life. I am seeing people I haven't seen in so long, people who like left to go to other schools that I adored. It was so sad that they left. And it's just like genuine heart led catching up. We're like too old now for like, tell me about your job. Like, people just are going like straight to realness now, like being in the late 40s. It's amazing. And, but then like 2 hours in, because I'm now thinking, oh, this is great. I'm like never going to have to talk to him. I can see him coming out of the corner of my eye. And he just kind of moseys on up. Oh, backdrop. So the whole story I just shared about the cheating, I had shared in a reel in like January, and I was contextualizing my story. It was really about group silence and the pain of my community of friends never telling me and then never talking about it with me after we broke up. And like how group groups like rotate around dominator leaders, like the man in charge in the United States, who like demand obedience and will be like made fun of and belittled and kicked out if they disobey. And so this like it was a very toxic situation with that male group in my graduating class. And I told this story. I didn't mention his name. And like nobody knows who he is except the people that are in our social group. And they already knew this was happening. Why? Because he chose to publicly cheat on me. He wasn't privately cheating on me. He chose to publicly cheat on me. So I had no problem talking about that on my platform because what do I owe him? He did it publicly and no, I didn't use his name. So he walks up to me, gives me a kiss on the cheek, and is like, "Can I talk to you for a second?" He pulls me under the main light next to the bar where everyone can see. And he says, "First of all, you look amazing." I'm just like, mm-hmm. Oh my God. What are you going to say next? And he goes, by the way, his wife is there. I'm like thinking about her, like, what are you doing? And he says to me, I saw your Instagram video and it really hurt me. Y'all, my video hurt him. So my brain is like trying to catch up. I've had a ranch water, I'm just like, uh, huh? And he's like, I mean, I was 18 years old. I've changed since then, but I want you to know I'm really sorry. And I was like, wait, is this an apology or are you defending yourself? And he's like, well, I was 18 years old. I was like, so it sounds like you're defending yourself. I was like, wait, let's pause. You really want to do this right here at our 30th reunion with all of these people watching? You're going to do this right here? He's like, yeah, I need you to hear me. Like, I'm sorry, but I've changed. And he's like, listen, because that happened, I've become the man that I am today. I wouldn't be the father and the husband I am today if that hadn't have happened. And so now I'm really seeing what's happening. And I nodded and I said, all right. Well, you know what? I am so happy for you that you've grown, that you've evolved. I'm so happy that you feel that this was like such a growth experience for you in your life and it's had positive consequences on the people who are in your life now. That is your story. That's amazing. But my story is how for 2 decades I was decimated from your public humiliation and everything that happened after that, where I couldn't see left from right and real from unreal. Decimated. And then my story is how I learned how to pick myself back up again, to love myself, to care for myself, rebuild myself, and return to my power. That is my story, and I get to tell it. We have nothing to say to one another. I am walking away right now. And then I turned and I walked away. And this was really powerful because in when I was 18, that was my first like immediate knowing is he no longer will have access to me. Tell I'm never going to see you again. And I returned to send her his letters. But because of my shame and because of my low self-esteem, I continued to talk to him, let him talk to me. I continued to go out with him sometimes in like the summertime. I would still sleep with him. And I never talked about how he publicly dragged me around and treated my love like a piece of trash. And that self abandonment haunted me for so long. So it was a wild experience of going back in time to the 18-year-old me who said, "You don't get access to me," to say, "I'm done talking with you." And essentially, you don't get to talk to me. You don't get to be in my presence. You don't get to have me laugh at your jokes. You don't get to believe that we're square. You don't get to believe that that was just something your 18-year-old did. No big deal. It's all better now. That's like your story, but I am not in that with you because I have my story and you don't get to tell me how to tell my story. So, so huge, y'all. It was so big. It was so big. I had to go to the bathroom and just take some deep breaths and like gather all my parts, like all these younger parts of me. I was like sensing how like I had stood in front of all of them when I said those words to him. Like they were behind me. They didn't have to do anything. They just got to feel protected. They got to feel protected. They got to feel cared for. And what was kind of wild was none of this was hard. This is a man who all of my adult life I was terrified I would run into because I knew that however I imagined he saw me was going to be like a sentence. It was going to be like that is the best I could possibly be is however he thinks that I am right now. Like my whole self-worth was tethered to what would Joe think about me right now? And now I like don't give a shit about him. He's not attractive in the sense of his aura has diminished in my view so much that he is small. He is a small, 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 small man to me, which is miraculous because he was a huge, huge, huge presence for decades of my life. It's just wild because I had no plan. I did not go to that party with a plan. I didn't think about how I could be confronted that way. I wasn't like ready to go with what to say. I was completely taken off guard. It was so obvious what he was doing. And I just said what I needed to say to honor myself. And it's just like that is the matriarchy is already here because it's a complete repattern from feeling like your self-worth is tethered to these dominator personalities. They're not always in male bodies. like the shame story being directly tethered to what they said to you or how they looked at you or how they treated you. And like these human beings or people who are like them having absolutely no power to rattle you or shake you. It's just like, please move out of the way. My drink is empty and I'm going to get another drink and I'm going to go talk to some amazing people that are here. Yeah, the matriarchy is already here because it was like basically energetically, I felt myself get huge, like I felt my energy just like womp womp huge, like Gandalf, like can get really big and just like take up the whole room with like, this is my story though, and you can back off. And my energy was just like, this is who I am now. Let me introduce you. Oh, did you think something else was going to happen? Apparently, you haven't been updated to who I am now. You haven't been updated, so let me update you. But I was 18 years old. How many times are you going to say that thinking that that's going to affect how I feel about you in this moment, you know? Um, and yeah, just like this is who I am now. And that comes from deep encounters with unshaming, deep encounters with updating into present time, deep encounters with refining, alchemizing the past so you can be in emergence. What is emerging now? Who am I now? Who is here in this room? Let me show you who they are. And like I didn't raise my voice. I didn't start crying. Crying was always what I would always do when I was like overwhelmed with feelings that I didn't know how to stay with myself through the feelings that were overwhelming me. I didn't know. It was just like, oh, you're mad at me for opening my mouth on Instagram and you're trying to convince me that you're not that person. Meanwhile, you're trying to apologize. No. Apologies do not ever come in pairs with defenses and explanations. That's not an apology. The thing is, like, whatever, if he had really changed, that would have gone completely differently. And then I would have responded very differently. You know what I mean? Like, this process of emergence and the matriarchy is here now allows you to be responsive. Because if he had come to me in the deep humility of having changed and really faced this with a true apology, we would have had a very different conversation because then I would have been responsive to that. But I was responding to someone trying to intimidate me. No. Leading with, of course, you look amazing. Wow. It's just kind of wild, like not many of us get those moments where you can like go back to be able to say something to that person who ruined you and to be able to do it so nimbly without a plan just shows to me like what all of this practice does over time. With time, I've become so embodied, that even with a drink in me and the emotionality of being in that room with all of those people, there was nothing that could rattle me away from myself. There was no way I was going to leave myself. So, yeah, just feeling very like in awe of time and the gratitude that I feel to be able to so literally take care of all those younger me's who were so confused because of what happened with him. It just shows that, the repair is so possible. My self-trust was in shreds, and this has happened. So wherever you are in your process of rebuilding self-trust, learning to stay with yourself, I just want to say that, like, this is repair is so possible. All things are possible. All possibilities exist when we commit to this business of unshaming and staying with ourselves through anything that could happen. Cycle to cycle, there are so many cycles over the years between starting this this attunement, between being since I got on the emergence path and now, where I fell off. Like, I did self-abandon. I did get rattled. I did go silent. I didn't defend myself. I didn't say what I wish I had said. Like, in order to have gotten to that massive moment, there were so many times where I was like, ugh, I'm still not like strong yet. Like, ugh, I did that old thing. And like, I just want to say that, like, that's just part of it. It's like, it's the coming back to yourself that matters. It's the coming back to yourself that matters. It's not about perfection. It's not about perfection. That's the patriarchy. That is not the paradigm. The paradigm is, all right, let's let's talk about how it went. Let's talk about how you wanted it to go. I see how much you wanted it to go like that. It is sad it didn't go that way. And really being with yourself with regret and disappointment is part of how you build. It's part of the way of building. It is the signal that you're doing the thing. It's the signal that you're not obedient to your shame, the shame of patriarchy, the shame of coloniality. You're being able to be attuned and compassionate and in conversation with all of your parts is you being the matriarchy is already here. You're already doing it. It's already happening. It's not about perfection. Whew. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm excited to see where this phrase, the matriarchy is already here, continues to go for me. What I've already been doing is like really a lot trying to update my contract to all of my offers so that I see how this is what we're doing. And like this, we are already being the new paradigm. And that what it is about children, future, by being with also the past. It's not about perfection codes. It's about attunement, listening, unfolding, alchemy, and that this is absolutely what we're doing. And have you tried making it weirder? Because it's about this refinement that comes from giving yourself a bunch of attention, giving yourself this attention, this attunement is going to force a confrontation with what is past tense and what is not in present time, what is somebody else's story about you, what is an old shame story that is actually not alive anymore and actually not in affinity with your craft, with your service, with where you're going. When you do that alchemy, you update yourself into present time and you say, this is who I am now. And branding to me is very like it's emergent over time. It's not like you have one branding session and you're done. Every few years, you feel yourself wanting to update it because you're like, this is who I am now. And I want to like do this clarifying ritual process so that I can be very, very clear eyed. And like, I'm a person who shows up for updates. I'm a person who shows up for emergence. I am a person who cares for myself and my craft that much that I'm going to go through this process that might bring up a lot of things. I'm bring I'm scared of it because alchemy can be very scary. It's scary to confront the version of us on the other side that is more powerful than we are now because we've never been that person and we've never learned about what it's like to be them responsible for that power in the world. And we just learn that through time. We just learn that through time together. Yeah. I feel like it will be really powerful to do like a every now and then when like I have an anecdote that I think exemplifies the matriarchy is already here, like the one I just shared, like to bring it through, whether it's my story or a guest, so that you can really like feel the like the energetics of change, the energetics of like speaking to power so differently, the energetics of being disobedient with what somebody wants from you so that they can feel better about themselves and not face their own shame. Like, that's not my job. Like, take it to your therapist. Do you have one? Joking. But seriously, like years and years and years and years of my life, I saw it as like my job to help somebody with their own shit. And like learn like that's for you and your story. That's for you to work out with yourself how much, how you should feel about me having this story. But like the fact that I have this story is my business. Let me tune in. Let me tune in and see if there's any more that wants to come through. Yeah, I just want to share that Matt Matt was noting the other day at coffee, and we were talking about the workshop because he's teaching it with me, that the ethos of the workshop is the person that you're manipulating is you. Isn't that good? He's so good. Because one of the things we fear with branding is that we're going to be like manipulative, that we're going to like manipulate people to want to work with us and to come buy from us. As if, I mean, do you feel the shame in that? As if coming to be in exchange with you is going to be bad for them. And it's also not trusting in people, like that they can like read through things themselves and make their own decisions. Anyway, we are often afraid that we're manipulating other people when we think about branding. But the ethos of this webinar, this workshop rather, it is going to be a workshop because you're going to be very actively engaging. The ethos is you're actually manipulating yourself. And what we really mean by manipulating, and I don't know the root of it, but I bet it would be really fun to know. Manipulate. What we're doing is we're alchemizing, like, as in, you are going to alchemize some of the shame that has you feel like, who am I to call myself that? Who am I to have repeating words that work like a spell in my business? Who am I to like get that refined um, in how I present? Who am I? Who do I think I am anyway? Exactly. Like exactly. That's the unshaming that we're doing. So when we're joking, not joking, the person you're manipulating is you. This is about you getting clear with yourself because you have to first believe in yourself before you can ask other people to believe in you. And that is going to be one that updates you into present time so that you can let go of some of the old patterns that make it harder for you to talk about your craft, your art, your service, your business in ways that are truly magnetic because you're probably softening the power or undermining the power of it from an old shame place. Let's alchemize that. And like I said, honestly, if you're listening and you're like, I want this, but I don't have a business, come because this is just going to be super clarifying for you as a human being and how you show up in any room that you go to, how you say your name, how you stand in your power in any space where no one can rattle you. Like you get that from going through periods of deep ritual around your power. Um, all right, let me think. Yeah, I wrote down here, who benefits from you not believing you have permission to claim yourself? Who benefits? Hmm. Who are you letting still be right about you? Who are you still letting be right about you? No more, no more, no more. Ooh, thank you so much. If this story meant something to you, I hope you'll reach out. If you've never left a review or a rating and you want to do that right now, it would mean so much to me. I love receiving reviews. It's like a big, fun day for me. So I encourage you to do that now. Even just one word, one sentence counts. It makes a big difference in people finding me and trusting that this would be worth their time and energy. Like podcasting, but listening to podcasts is an investment. Why should someone trust this and not something else? If you could put something that could help them, I'd be so grateful. Thank you so much. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe, like, comment, pass it around, share it. And the matriarchy is already here. Tell me your thoughts. Cheers.